Chris is currently a partner at Bingham and a member of the Corporate Mergers and Acquisitions and Securities Group, advising global companies on strategic issues, corporate governance, security regulation, and general business matters worldwide. He's also a principal of Bingham Consulting Group, focused on strategic issues involving federal and state government, homeland security, and multi-state litigation. It's with distinct pleasure and honor I invite Mr. Chris Cox for his keynote address today. Chris.
That was very kind. Thank you very much, Anil, and thank you, all of you, for joining us here in almost any other newspaper in the country. You saw that yesterday the Congress determined to leave all of the scheduled tax increases in place, at least until after the election. So things will be entirely in flux for the indefinite future, and there's going to be a lot to talk about there. I'm going to mention some of the fiscal policy implications of these tax changes in just a moment. But when you listen to Quan Nguyen, Mike McDermott, and Mel Schwartz right before lunch, just keep in mind the words of Albert Einstein, who said, "The hardest thing in the world to understand is the income tax." The title of this conference is optimistically titled Beyond the Crisis. It informs us that now we can put all that behind us. And I suppose in the equity markets, it's true that the worst of the financial crisis seems to have passed. But for regulators who have so recently been burned when the metrics that they relied upon to warn of coming disaster proved wholly inadequate, and whose job even in good times is to imagine not what's going right, but what could go wrong, there are still many unsolved problems and many signs of instability. And for market participants, the very rapid pace of change in law and regulation has been matched by continued uncertainty about what the government is going to do next. Not least among the recent significant changes in American law is last July's statutory overhaul of financial regulation. You've probably heard it described as the most comprehensive since the Great Depression. And that's certainly true if you judge it by its length. The Federal Reserve Act, which was passed in 1913, was 31 pages long. The Glass-Steagall Act in 1933 was 37 pages long. Even the modern Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act, adopted in 1999, which made dramatic changes in every sector of financial services, was only 145 pages of legislation. In contrast, the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act weighs in at 2,319 pages, and that is just the legislation. The Center for Corporate Reporting and Governance has an excellent website, and it highlights, right on its homepage, the new FinReg law. On the homepage, it challenges the visitor with this provocation, quote, "The Dodd-Frank Act spans 2,300 pages. How much did you read?" But of course, the 2,300 pages of legislation is just the start. At my law firm, Bingham McCutchen, we've estimated that the law will require 243 new rulemakings, which will add over 20,000 pages of new regulations. So the law and the regulations together will be lengthier than the 20 volumes of the Oxford English Dictionary. That's a lot to digest.